I told my wife in December, I was like, the way we do business today in December 2024 is going to be totally different in December of 2025.
We're in an interesting spot right now because ChatGPT is becoming more and more mainstream. And I think that if you talk to the population at large and you say AI, that's the first thing they're going to think of is ChatGPT.
AI agents do better when they concentrate on one task and then hand it off to the other.
API access isn't as easy as we as agents think it is because we're not really educated on how the sausage gets made. But the reality is, when somebody is able to achieve that, there's been a mountain of work that's been done to make that happen.
We hire underwriters, producers, because they're experts at what they do. They're good at talking to people. They're good at consulting and advising, but we're putting them behind a computer, making them type all day, right? Let's take that stuff that they're not supposed to be doing and let it do it without them even knowing. So we're empowering them to get that information right away.
I do feel like I've got a little bit more opportunity to have probably a better fine-tuned response from ChatGPT because I have so much in there. I mean, when we built it to create stuff in my voice, like the transcripts of both of my books are in there, every blog I've ever written, the transcript of every podcast that we've put on. So like when I go into ChatGPT, it's talking to me. It's almost me. Like, it's really scary how close it is. If we're going to require our agents to give us stuff in a standardized format, we should reciprocate and do exactly the same thing. If that was the case, think about how much easier it would be to use a lot of the OCR technology and other things that are out there for us to take data in, slice it, dice it, make reports out of it, and then communicate that to our clients, but we're not there.
You know, agents have 1,000 problems, right, that they're trying to solve for. This one product didn't solve all of that. So sometimes it would almost create more work because they had to take data from this system to this system, and there was a gap in the middle, right? And even though they had great technology, it just wasn't becoming worth it for agents to use, just simply because it still didn't solve all the issues.
Technology's moving faster. The ability to update and upgrade your tech has gotten a lot easier because you can use the AI tools to streamline that process. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. Today, my guest is Mr. Jonathan Maloney from InsureStream. He is the founder there. And he's doing a couple cool things right now that we talked about before I hit the record button. I'm not going to waste any time giving you a little bit of an overview. We'll dive in deep when we hit the meat of it here in our discussion. So welcome, Jonathan. Glad to have you today.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. My pleasure, man. So before we get into the nitty gritty, why don't you give everybody kind of a little bit about your background and overview as to who we are, and then we'll jump into the cool things that you're doing and seeing with tech.
Yeah, man. So Jonathan Maloney, and it's my 25th year, I believe, in the industry. Like a lot of us, we got pulled in from family. Grew up saying that I was never going to work in insurance, and here I am, 25 years in. So I started my career out with my dad. We owned a wholesaler that specialized in workers' comp, and then in 2015, I branched off and started worked for a couple of MGAs. And then in 2020 and to today, I've been in the Insurtech side. Worked for a couple of comparative raters, and got used to that VC world and startup world there. Then in December, I decided to branch off and start InsureStream, which is kind of two facets, right? One is we're building out an expert marketplace. So basically, you can go in there, and if you have a project, say you're trying to, if it's a technical project, we would have the domain experts on that site. Similar to if you ever use like an Upwork situation.
Well, it's funny, man, because as you're describing this, I literally recorded a podcast earlier, and I was telling the guy. and I was thinking the same thing when you and I were talking before I hit record. there's so many people that have technical backgrounds but no insurance background, and they come in and they try and form Insurtech, and they're in and they're out because they don't really understand the nuances of the industry and how to adapt their tech to it. And it's not really the easiest thing to learn on the fly. But then you have on the other side of the coin, you have the insurance people who don't have the tech background, and they're out there trying to solve the problems. And my comment earlier was it's really interesting to see because at this point, any agent who's facing a problem in their agency or at a wholesaler or at a carrier or at a TPA or whatever, they can come up with the idea in the solution in their mind with no ability to execute. But to your point, Fiverr, Upwork, some of these other places make it very easy to go in and get somebody who's the expert at the tech piece to help you get that thing built, and in many cases, go to market if concept's proven in your agency. I think that then the other thing I immediately said after that was, and by the way, you got to be really careful when you go to these places because you don't always know who it is that you're hiring. So it's kind of fortuitous that my next podcast that I record is with you, who's basically saying, oh yeah, we got that, but it's specific to the industry and we vetted these people so we know they know what they're doing. That's actually really cool.
The insurance gods have spoken, right?
Yeah, man, I heard a gong in the background somewhere.
um, yeah, I mean, but you're exactly right. I mean, I think what we've seen over the years, I mean, we need each other, right? Like both sides, right? But you get in a situation when one doesn't have the knowledge of the other, so they're just kind of going off their own gut for what they did in the tech industry, right? Which does not carry over as fluid as some of the other industries, and then you get the pressures like the VC world, like hey, growth at all cost, and you got compliance issues, you got regulations, and like, there's just ways to do it the right way, and that's where the domain expert, the expert of insurance comes in and can carefully lay out those playbooks.
Yeah, absolutely. So I interrupted you. The first thing you were talking about was your basically your marketplace to match people, to get things built or whatever. But there was also something else we talked about prior to hitting record.
Yeah. So, the original idea of InsureStream actually was this AI bot marketplace. I put a pause on it a couple years ago, and kind of glad I did because technology has just exploded since then, right? If I had built it out, it would never have
It would
lasted.
already be obsolete, man. I mean, this stuff is moving so fast. I feel like if you built it today, it's obsolete in 3 months, if not faster.
And we're running into those challenges today is that we would build something out, yesterday. And like today, a new feature, a new like protocol would come out. And it's like, oh my gosh, like how we do that. But, how things are being built today, where you have these kind of modules, right? And they're easy to replace, unlike these hard-coded ways they were built just last year or 2 years ago, right? So integrations are faster. Everything is kind of a plug and play. So we're going to become the orchestration level. So the fabric of insurance to run a multi-model agents, right? AI agents, right? So you can connect that. Reason I'm so interested in this part is, as I spent time in the insurtech industry, you would have great technology, right? But it would fail for a few reasons, mostly because it didn't, agents have 1,000 problems, right? That they're trying to solve for. Like this one product didn't solve all of that. So sometimes it would almost create more work because they had to take data from this system to this system, and there was a gap in the middle, right? And even though they had great technology, it just wasn't becoming worth it for agents to use, just simply because it still didn't solve all the issues. So in that middleware, you have a workflow builder that can connect to all types of third-party agents. And so that's the two things we're working on.
Good deal. So, I mean, right now in that bot marketplace, how many active products do you have in there?
So we're pre-product right now. We're building the product. We haven't gone to
Okay,
market, right?
fair enough.
So what we're hoping to see, right? So we're building where it's going to be a community led, right? So say, Dave, you built a bot, right? That cleans up AMSs or cleans up your data, right? You could push that to our marketplace. And then as a vendor, right, you now have a distribution to our community. But then the users are now able to access that same type of what we call cookbooks, right? That recipe in there. And hopefully try to standardize some of this tech that's coming out so it can all be connected at one point.
We are like one of the most fickle industries ever, in my opinion, because, you know, standardization is mandatory when it's convenient, but that's about it, right? So if you look at it, this is something that I've griped about for a long time, and I'm going to continue to gripe about it until we actually figure out a way to get it fixed. But to give you an example of the hypocrisy from my view, anytime I want to write business through a wholesaler or a carrier that's going to require standard submission, I have to use standardized insurance applications, right? I have to go use Accord forms. There may be some supplementals because the standard Accord forms don't capture everything about a risk that you need. And I understand that. But on the flip side, when I want to get loss runs and loss data, I'm going to get 15,000 different variations of a report format that has different information. It's missing things here and there and everything else. Why in the world can't we say, you know what? We need standardized loss data. If we're going to require our agents to give us stuff in a standardized format, we should reciprocate and do exactly the same thing. If that was the case, think about how much easier it would be to use a lot of the OCR technology and other things that are out there for us to take data in, slice it, dice it, make reports out of it, and then communicate that to our clients. But we're not there. Like, we don't have a set of operating rules across, you know, agencies, brokerages, carriers, and everybody else that says this is the language we speak. We're all going to speak the same language, and moving forward, if you don't speak the language, we just simply don't understand what you're saying because it's not the language we speak. But instead, it's like we're all over the place, man. It blows my mind.
It really does. I mean, you're 100% correct, right? Like, you take a chord, for an admitted side, and then you got all these supplements on the ENS side, and you hit, on the loss data. Um, you take like Apple, right? Like the Apple marketplace, right? Or the, Apple store, right? I mean, they kind of standardized and made the industry kind of abide by those laws, right? And we don't do that here, right? And I think the people need to, not only do we not do it, we withhold innovation by saying, hey, this is how we did it then. We can't continue to innovate to make sure we're adopting, new age tech for the application standpoint, right? I mean, we've done a good job as of lately. It's a slow process, but even on the APIs, right? I mean, from one carrier to another, it's, depending who you're working with, it could be a long process. But
I mean, I was talking to my friend Raghav Tana that built Tarmica, and one of the things he was talking about with regard to APIs, and I think I actually had the same conversation with the guys from Glovebox too. The average agent, number one, agents are notorious for hearing things and then creating buzzword, making that a buzzword and talking about it like they really know what it is they're talking about when they really have no clue. And APIs is a great example. The number of times I'm in a room and somebody raises their hand and says, hey, did you give us API access with that? Dude doesn't even know what API stands for, let alone what access means and all of that other stuff, right? And so one of the things that I learned in talking to Rags, and then also, I think it was may have been Sean Mulhern at Glovebox, was agents think that when you tell a carrier you want API access, it's as simple as them saying, "Okay, we're going to grant it to you. Here it is." There are so many different APIs inside of each carrier because it could be by underwriting company, by line of coverage. Like API access isn't as easy as we as agents think it is because we're not really educated on how the sausage gets made. But the reality is, when somebody is able to achieve that, there's been a mountain of work that's been done to make that happen.
You're exactly right. So you have a bind API, right? You have a quote API, indication API, appetite API, all within one carrier. Then to your point, you have different papers, right? When comparative raters started coming out, especially on the commercial side, what we saw, hey, we have quote to bind, right? And then we just saw indications. Well, I think that was part of when we got Insurtechs coming in. They didn't realize what that meant, right? Like from a bond, how important that was to us agents is that, hey, just because you gave me an indication, if I go back to the carrier and they dramatically change that price, you're putting me in a position that I might now lose a client because of it, right? So there's been a huge amount of people fixing that. There's several companies out there are doing really good, solid quotes. But I think that was a learning process of how to understand, a rate call one, a rate call two, a rate call three, and what's the difference there. But what we're seeing now, right, with the AI is what, and I'll say this, I haven't seen it almost in the insurance yet, but what I'm doing as I'm building out my own app, I'm able to like tell AI, like, hey, here's the API documents, do an integration, and boom, and there's the integration. Now it comes back to the standardization. Like, hey, AI knows kind of how to integrate that pretty well. But I think we'll see that real quickly from where I used to take, depending on the complexity, 6 or 7 months to do an integration down to, maybe a few weeks.
Well, in this, I was actually kind of thinking about that a little bit when you were referencing how we used to have to build stuff in hard code and all of the other things. AI's actually made some of that easier too. I mean, you can get code from Chat GPT. I mean, I'm not going to say that it's 100% the way that it needs to be or whatever, but I
Right?
feel like even though technology's moving faster, the ability to update and upgrade your tech has gotten a lot easier because you can use the AI tools to streamline that process too. So, as much as you maybe loathe, which is the word I would use, as much as I would loathe developing something, getting it to market, and then have to update it almost immediately when I get it out, at least I don't have to go about that the way it has been done with legacy software and things. There are tools now that have definitely made that process a lot easier. If it didn't, I don't know how we would ever keep up.
Yeah, you wouldn't, right? And that's the neat thing about the AI agents out there, right? So as you build your workforce, you basically have a manager, right? That kind of manages all of those agents. And one of those is exactly what you're saying. Hey, is this software outdated, updated, or needs to be updated? And that one's constantly coding or updating that technology as you go along to ensure that you're, staying on top of what's being changed every day.
Absolutely. So, what are the biggest problems you see agents wanting to have solved right now using tech?
You know, a lot of my experience and who I work with on the wholesale and MGA level. But I think that kind of translate down to the independent agent is how they are working with these MGAs and how are they working with the wholesalers. You know, I like the boring stuff. I think there's a lot. Everybody's chasing this flashy, coin, right? But the ROI of getting operations done that actually produce is not just getting the redundant like stuff like completed. I mean, it's like, hey, how do we structure our data, right? If I'm on this old AMS how do I get it to a new AMS, right? And that's a huge undertaking, especially if you don't understand how to structure, right? Or just a filing cabinet for it to look at. So I think what I see is like that starting point is like, hey, how do we implement this tech? Because we hear about it, right? We know it's changing the world, and from a lot of seminars I've been part of, it's the fourth industrial revolution we're having right now, right? Is but how do we get these agents to say, hey, you know, how do we do this to make sure that we can keep up with times and we can use our own data because it's like gold, right? I mean, we that is our currency, I would say. And how do we put that into the hands of the agent so they can make uh, you know more powerful decisions with their carriers, with their vendors, right? I can't stress
with their staffing.
their staffing, right? I mean, could you imagine like what I imagine, right, is like, okay, you have a kind of a what are they like a what they call a whisper AI that's kind of listening to your salespeople's calls, right? And then you have a prompt on your screen say, hey, this customer sentiment is at this score. You need to lead them into this way, right? Or as they're talking, they're asking about information, and that screen is automatically pulling up those things from your filing, right? You have to have that filing system done first before you could train the AI to do that. But once it is, I mean, just think how powerful that is. You're putting your we hire underwriters, producers because they're experts at what they do. They're good at talking to people. They're good at consulting and advising. But we're putting them behind a computer, making them type all day, right? Let's take that stuff that they're not supposed to be doing and let it do it without them even knowing. So we're empowering them to get that information right away.
Yeah, and I think again, it cracks me up. It goes back to the hypocrisy of everything, right? Because you have agents that are pushing, well, we need tech to do this, we needed to do this, we needed to do this. But then if you were to step back and look at their operations, they literally have no formal processes to begin with. So what's tech really going to do to help them except muddy the waters?
We're working on this one workflow right now. So I was like, all right, how can we find it's like the wholesaler that hasn't put any data in their system in years, and it's just everywhere because I want to use that as the use case. And that's exactly how we went into it, right? It's like I want this agent to basically observe your folks and see what they're doing. And then I want that another agent to write that SOP for you. Okay. And then so that's how that process goes because it's hard to do that, but you don't sometimes you don't even know what your staff is doing every single moment when they get stuff done. So you just have this observer to do that, and then you now start building that foundation from the very, very scratch. Then you take it and then you enhance it, enhance it, enhance it until you get to the part you just talked about, David. All right, now you can have some fun with it, right? Now it's there. Let it go loose so you can kind of dream what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I think there's a lot too that agents probably are not paying as close attention to some of the robotic process automation stuff that's been here for a little while. AI is even changing how that stuff is operating, and we're moving to what looks to be more like RPA with an overlay of AI that's guiding it. Talk about that for a couple minutes.
100%. So, what is it? I can't remember. Was it? There's a company out there. I can't remember, but the RPA has been around for a long time, right? And you basically would train off your mouse, or you could train it manually. But you take like GPT operator, all right? You can tell the operator which logs in on a browser, right? And it will go task by task. You have for right now, you have to, it's pretty it can't do multiple tasks, right? But that's why people are building out multiple agent systems, because AI agents do better when they concentrate on one task and then hand it off to the other. But this is where, I mean, where used to almost had to do the integration before. Sometimes now, heck, I don't need to do an integration. I'm just going to tell the agent to get onto that desktop to enter that data for me. So why not? That's If it's a web browser, you just tell it to here's the Accord app, read it, take it out, and then put it into those right places in the application. I see it mostly, what I'm actually doing personally right now with one of those is just making sure if it's putting any emails and attachments that are coming in, and just making sure it's going into those right files and folders every single day. And so we kind of run it on a nightly basis, but it's keeping me organized. So that's how I get disorganized, because I don't have time to do it.
Yeah, no, and I've seen a lot of people use it for things like commissions reconciliation and,
Oh yeah.
to your point, data cleanup, just to make sure that the data that's in your system is clean. I would be willing to bet 85% of the agencies out there, if someone were to go in and do a deep dive and audit their data is just not anywhere close to where it needs to be, myself included. Like I'd
Yeah.
be the first one to admit that. You've got your top tier agencies that focus on it, they pride themselves on it.
Sure.
Look, man, I'm a producer at heart. I'm running and gunning. I'll go out and I'll close deals and I'll bring revenue in, but somebody else figure out how to do all of this, because it's just not what my skill set is. It's not something I'm interested in. I'm certainly not passionate about it. I understand its importance, but it's an example of one of those things that there's a 100% chance I'm either going to automate it with tech or outsource it to a third party that can do it for me, because I'm just never going to make that a priority for myself. It doesn't make sense. It does. I get a far better return on the investment of my time doing revenue bearing activities than I do something that I'm not good at, don't care about, don't like, frankly. I'm never going to get the best result that way.
Well, I think you just made a good point too. Like, how many other producers and other personnel hate doing that stuff, right? So now we're talking about improving the culture of your agency,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
It's just like when I was the last workers' comp program that I ran. I mean, we it was all full. It was fully automated for the most part, but the accounting piece was a massive undertaking, right? So you got all these little transactions going on each month. I mean, and it pushes that to the agent, and then if there's a cancellation, it's automatically sent out. We had to send to the agent, but then a reinstatement would go back in. Then we have to go to the carrier portals to download things. This is the stuff that has to be done, but it's they don't make it easy, right? So I think this is something that, like, the RPA or the operators that can be trained to easily perform.
So we're in an interesting spot right now because ChatGPT is becoming more and more mainstream. And I think that if you talk to the population at large and you say AI, that's the first thing they're going to think of is ChatGPT. Those things are not synonymous. I mean, ChatGPT certainly is a type of AI, but it isn't the be all end all. It's made things a lot easier in a lot of areas of our business, whether it come from content creation and coming up with ideas on things to create content around. If you're a content based marketer, I've used it to take transcripts of conference calls that I have with my community and then turn that into scripting for a learning management system that I've built inside of Synthesia's platform with my avatar and voice clone. So now I can take a 1 hour call and turn it into a 12 to 15 module
Wow.
learning center lesson on things like telemarketing or appointment setting or trade shows or things like that. But what do you see next? I mean, what's the stuff that's out there on the horizon right now that maybe is like one degree removed from what we're all able to see mainstream at this point?
That's a great question. I don't know. The AGI is what that's the big one, right? Is what, but I don't know. I've listened to a couple things on that topic, and it means different things to different people. I'm not definitely not the expert of what that actually, when you start having computers start having intelligent more than the human brain, where it can reason, and I think that actually, that talking about, they don't tell us everything, right? So who knows if it's actually there or not? Every month I feel like, hey, that's coming or whatnot. But I think the reasoning gets better no matter what, right? Is that we start having better conversations with any type of um, AI model or LLM out there that continues to understand how the human brain works and the different scenarios, right? Because right now you still it's really black and white, right? I mean, I know ChatGPT extended the memory, so now they know a lot about you, but until you like if your agents or if producers are getting into the back end and actually like the API, OpenAI, go in there and like train their agent on specific, that's really what they should be doing, right? Because like the interface, it's great for marketing and content. I mean, it's getting a little bit better, but if you go on the back end and test out the prompts, and actually build out an assistant, you would be pretty amazed of what you can do today with very, very little technical skills.
Well, I'll tell you right now, I did one a couple weeks ago. One of my buddies posted, David Watson, who founded Risk Advisor. He posted on LinkedIn and was talking about a prompt he put into Chat GPT. And I know I'm going to butcher this. I apologize, David. My bad. But essentially, what it was a prompt you put into Chat GPT saying, based on everything you know about me, what are like 5 blind spots that I'm missing, or something along those lines, right? And everybody in the comments section is like, wow, this is really accurate. I can't believe it. And I'm like, whatever, man. There's no way. I put it in. It was scary how accurate it was. It was like, I'm a pretty self aware dude, and I can step back and objectively look at where I'm good, where I'm not good, and figure out how to improve. So, knowing that, I'm not going to ever push back if somebody has a valid point that maybe I need to brush up this area or whatever else. That thing nailed me to a T. Like, I don't know. I was kind of afraid to say expand this to 10 blind spots because the 5 it got me were so on point. I need to get those corrected first. But holy cow. And I mean, I do feel like I've got a little bit more opportunity to have probably a better fine-tuned response from ChatGPT because I have so much in there. I mean, when we built it to create stuff in my voice, like the transcripts of both of my books are in there, every blog I've ever written, the transcript of every podcast that we've put on. So like when I go into ChatGPT, it's talking to me. It's almost me. Like it's really scary how close it is. All that to say, holy cow, man, it knows exactly. And I mean, we had Kerry Weston on the podcast a couple of weeks ago. His episode's going to air here in the next few weeks. That's one of the things he said was train it to be your assistant. Let it help you get through your day. Have it help you do these. And he gave very specific examples. And like, you know what? There's so many people out there screwing around making action figures of themselves on Chat GPT. They don't even realize the use case that you just brought up that would literally change their life based on the productivity it would create.
I was just talking to somebody the other day. What I thought it was fascinating, and I didn't think about this. They meet with their GPT every Friday, right? And they go through their calendar, just like I said, an assistant, right? And it organizes everything and then sets them up for the next week, right? And it's we did the same thing. So I run this insurance executive insurance network, right? So there's about like 30 of us in there that have, they're founders of other insurtechs and MGA wholesalers and carriers. But I sent out that prompt because I don't know if it was from Watson, but I saw somebody else post it and I did it, and I was taken back. And it's like it told me something I already knew, right? Like in my gut, but I didn't want to
Yeah,
bring.
everything there wasn't something that was a complete shocker and unknown to me. I think that's a fair assessment. I knew it. I just didn't want to believe it. Like I'm living in denial and it called me out, is the way I would put it.
You're exactly right. Definitely called me out. And I think I got the same response from those others that did it as well. It was scary, scary good. And uh, it, but you could definitely see how that it can keep you honest if you get somebody of no bias opinion on you, right? So it's just going to tell you, how it is.
100%. I mean, that's kind of how my wife operates too. So
Yep.
there's that.
I have 4 kids, and my wife is I don't know how I would ever get anything done without her, and she definitely keeps me honest as well.
Oh yeah, no, she's every bit as direct as ChatGPT is to me,
Right?
if not more so.
Yep.
What have we missed?
I don't know. I think it's interesting. It just, like we started at the beginning, how fast are things? Things are progressing. I'm interested. I told my wife in December, I was like, the way we do business today in December of 2024 is going to be totally different in December of 2025. So I want to see how this rest of the year goes. I have big hopes for it. I think it's for people are scared of AI. I think it ends up getting to a point where like, look, we're back to where we should be, right? Is being social animals that interact. Now we're not behind computers. We're not, let AI robotics do that. Let's get back to interacting, especially in insurance, right? Is that you know that's one of the reasons I started the executive insurance network was because I felt like there was like this is missing. Everybody was behind technology, wasn't interacting. I used to be able to call up my buddies in the industry all the time to say, "Hey, what's up? Can I do this?" We all need to make money. We all need to, um, you know, do business. But I'd rather do it with somebody that I know and trust, and building those relationships. And I think that's if it's with making a sale with a client or just building better networking in the insurance industry. I think this helps us free up the time.
Yeah, 100%. So listen, as we wrap up, where do they learn more about what you're doing? How do they get in touch with you?
Yep.
Where can they find all this stuff other than just going to Google and asking?
Yeah, doing great. So you can email me anytime. It's Jonathan at InsureStream.com. Our website is InsureStream.com. We will be relaunching our website here in the coming months. As today, it sits there as a fractional website, but as we develop, we are going to be updating these pages with more information. But I would love to speak with anybody. Call, text, or email me.
Good deal, man. Well, listen, I appreciate you spending a few minutes chatting with me today. I'm pumped to find out about that bot marketplace specifically because I feel like that's something that a lot, I think that a couple things. Number one, you've got people who are tech savvy, they're at the forefront of this, they already know about it, they've adapted, and adopted and moved on. And in many cases, they may have innovated and created their own tech or facilitated that happening. Then you have the people that are scared living, like it scares the living daylights out of them. They don't want to do anything and they're just going to go and live in a closet and hope for the best. But you have this subset of people, and I think it's the overwhelming majority that no tech is out there, but they're not 100% sure of exactly what tech is out there and what problems it can solve. And I do think that's an issue that we have that you're actually addressing because people don't realize a lot of times what's even available to them. So if you have a marketplace where they can at least go in and see, oh, well, we were just complaining about this last week, and I could use this bot to solve this problem. Great. That'll make Sally happier, and it'll free up enough of her time that I can now, from the agency principal standpoint, I can give her a new business goal that she needs to sell more since she's not having to spend time doing this. But Sally really likes to sell, and she gets a little commission for everything that she sells. So everybody wins. The agency grows in revenue. Profit probably is going to grow because you're outsourcing to the lowest level of competency, which is a bot at this point. And Sally gets to focus on doing what she likes to do the best, build her relationships, maintain the ones she already has, cross-sell and write new business. Everybody wins in that situation. And I think by putting things in one spot, right? I think about it this way. How many times, I'm a child of the 80s, so shopping malls still matter to me. You know, that was the deal on Friday night. You were hanging at the mall with your friends and all of this stuff. But if you think about it, how many times do people like know, you know what? I need to go get some new dress clothes because I've got some stuff coming up. I'm going to go to the mall. Well, what are you going to get? Well, I'm not sure. But when I get there, I'll look around and see what they have, and I'll find exactly what I need, and everything will be good. I think it's the same thing, man. I think that, you know, if we can get someplace, we know we need things, or we know we want problems to be solved, but we're not sure how we're going to get there or what the products are that are available. And then boom, you go into this marketplace, all of a sudden there's everything in front of you, and it makes your life a whole lot easier instead of having to navigate the waters on your own.
Yeah, I loved how you just articulated that, Dave. That's the reason why we wanted to do a community-built type middleware, where the ones in the trenches, right, are building out workflows that, you know, not one person operates the same as others, right? So then it gives everybody this huge transparency and visibility to what is working and what can they adopt that will solve their problems today, not and a hope that, hey, if I get this one tech, this might solve that, right? This allows them to continue to build and build and build and build.
Absolutely. All right. Good deal, man. Well, listen, everybody, I encourage you to go check out everything that Jonathan is doing with InsureStream. When you do, let him know where you heard about him. And I wish you well, man. This will be the first of more than one conversation we have as you continue to build this stuff out. I want to make sure you understand you're welcome to come back anytime you want. I want to make sure that we're getting the word out to everybody.
David, I appreciate it, man. This is exciting. Appreciate being on, and y'all get me at LinkedIn if you want to connect. But I love talking about this stuff. I love being part of this industry. It's one of the best.
Awesome, man. Thanks again. I hope you have a great weekend. Everybody else,